is Ernie again, or what did you call me before? E-Dog?
E-Dog.
Yeah, E-Dog. And
so I'm confused. These are podcasts?
Yes.
I thought they were podcasts, and I was expecting we were going to get high so I'm a little disappointed so far.
That comes later.
Okay, all right. Because it is legal in most states now.
Anybody who's been listening to this podcast probably already thinks we're stoned.
Exactly, for sure. We have these moments of clarity where we sound really serious and important and everything like that.
Yeah.
But then it's just that we go off the rails.
And then, hopefully they're getting something out of it. All right, so DSM practitioners out there, the third topic in terms of the way to build your sleep practice out of the gate is we've talked about mining your patient database. We've talked about direct-to-consumer. And the third, which I have used the analogy of, is kind of like an annuity. You know, going after your patient base is kind of like a bond, right? It's safe, it's easy, it's right there. It didn't cost you much. You know you're going to get a return. It's just going to take a while. Your stock is going to be spending the money to go out there direct to consumer and hope that you placed a good bet and get a good return. And your annuity is going to be the time you spend with these referring doctors. And it takes a long time, but then like any other specialist around the world, you get referrals like clockwork from that point forward. But it's tough, right?
It's tough.
If you are a dentist out there growing a practice and you say, hey, I want to do less general dentistry, I want to do more sleep. Well, then in order to spend the time to go build your sleep practice, you're doing less of your GP work, you're getting paid less, or you're doing more and doubling down on your work by keeping your patient ratio, which you've had it before, and trying to fit in these referrals. So it's not an easy task.
For sure.
But it's definitely worth it. So there are two types of doctor referrals we want to focus on, and I'll let you start on the first.
Yeah, so I will start on the first by talking about finding local dentists rather than just local physicians. But I'm going to start with just a brief story that actually happened yesterday. I was in the office yesterday with my wife, and we saw a couple patients. And then she tells me we got a call from a local physician's office. They want to know if we have some cards or brochures that we could bring over, because we've never given this particular office cards or brochures. Now, I just want you to take that in for a second. This particular office is about 13 miles away from me. This particular office, we've had a relationship with for 2 years. About 2 years ago, we saw a patient where the pulmonologist was in this office, and we treated them successfully. And then after treating another patient from that same office, we asked to do a lunch and learn, and were declined. We dropped off some stuff, which I'll go into detail in a minute, a registry, one business card, and asked for some of their cards, and sent them some patients over the next, let's say, 18 or 14 months, whatever it was. 2 years, invested time, not a lot of time, but invested, proving ourselves to this practice that we're the best answer for them when they need an oral appliance. Now they've called us and asked us for business cards. That's kind of how I want you to think about this. How do I develop a relationship with my local dentist or my local physician? Local dentist who does do sleep, local physician who can have mild to moderate cases where oral appliances are appropriate, failed CPAP patients or severes who failed CPAP, where oral appliance therapies in consideration, it's in play. How do I earn their trust to the point that they would ask me for referral cards? Keep that in the back of your mind as I start to talk about this. If I went to a local dentist and I said, hey, are you doing sleep? No, send me your patients. That's telling them what's in it for me.
Mm-hmm.
I've gone to, I'm going to say every, but it's not. There's probably one or two exceptions of local dentists in my area offering to teach them how to do sleep, offering to teach them how to do this wonderful thing. And then maybe my presentation is a little leaning towards the heavier conversation about side effects and the difficulty of working with physicians and insurance reimbursement to let them feel the full flavor of those challenges so that they would probably opt to just not do sleep and refer to me. And we do a lunch and learn to them to tell them how to mine their own patients, just like we talked about mining our patients. Now, they're not going to be as dedicated if they're not doing the sleep. they're not going to see those full outcomes as quickly. So the sales cycle for them is going to be longer to see that patient come back telling those great stories, but they'll still get that positive reinforcement that they nudged that patient to come see me. And it isn't the same as if I was minding my own patients and I already had that love and trust. Now, the specialist they send them to, me, has to earn that love and trust with that patient from that other practice. So that might take some time as well. But the idea is, if I can come across to them to say, what's in it for you? Well, doctor, you and your team are supposed to be screening for sleep-related breathing disorders. And I know that the challenge is you can screen and you can decide whether or not you want to treat. I'm happy to help you learn how to do that. I've got slides. I'll give anybody my slides. I'll get slides. I can help you do that, talk through that. Well, this is pretty complex. How about if I just send them to you? Awesome. Happy to help. So what's in it for them? I offer to teach them to do what I do. They chose not to. They at least need a outlet for those patients to go to. They could send them to local sleep physicians, lost in the shuffle many times, send them to me. I sometimes send that patient to a local sleep physician as well. We'll talk about when I do that and when I don't. But it's not about approaching that referring dentist and saying, hey, I'd like you to send me some patients so I can make some money, so I can help some patients, so I can get fulfilled, so I can do meaningful stuff. Always trying to twist that around to what's in it for them, not what's in it for me. And that's good leadership too, right?
Absolutely.
It's the idea is, how do I help you help me? And how do you help me help you? Let's work together on this. So if you start to think about earning their trust, I went to you and said, I'd be happy to teach you how to do this. You said you don't really want to do this. You said, can I send you patients and you won't steal them and stuff? Of course not. In my case, I don't do dentistry, so that's easy. I haven't picked up a drill or a syringe or a handpiece or anything, and so I call it a drill, for God's sake, instead of a handpiece. I'm so embarrassed. A Dremel, I picked up a Dremel. I picked up low-speed adjusted devices, but you've got to develop that level of trust. That's what it's all about. Are we used to seeing that? Well, we are, because we refer to endodontists, periodontists, oral surgeons, pediatric dentists. We do all this referral orthodontists, and we get our patients back. In fact, with our periodontists, they get so concerned that we play flip-flop every 3 months with their cleaning appointments for the perio patients who are in maintenance, because they want to make sure that they're reaching out to, that they earn our trust. So think about, and they also do a really good job of selling the dentistry that needs to be done in those patients' mouths when they're in the specialist office, because that's what's in it for us as well. I send you a referral, you do the root canal, but you convince that patient they've got to come back and get the crown. We're working together. I'm helping you help me, you're helping me. I love it. Think like that with this sleep. So when I'm seeing a sleep patient and there's some dental needs, I can reinforce how important it might be to get those dental needs done early, depending on how large they are. All their dental needs and what they might need to be done. I can support the dentist in saying that, yeah, it's awesome because Dr. So-and-so referred you over to me instead of just making you a bite guard. Because today we know just making that bite guard actually might make your airway worse if we didn't bring your jaw down and forward, because it actually just rotates the mandible open and closes it. And I'm like, wow, so my dentist is up on this. Yeah, your dentist is cool. So how do we help them look good? If you're going to chase your local dentists, it's usually easiest to be with friends and colleagues and people you know, love, and trust. Now, if you're a jerk or all the people around you are jerks and there's none of those relationships, then that's probably not going to be a very viable avenue for you to chase. Actually, if you're a jerk, you're probably not listening to this podcast. It doesn't matter. So no jerks are allowed.
We probably have some jerks.
We're going to retitle this one, No Jerks Allowed.
Yeah,
you know?
Exactly.
But you've got to have somebody in your area that would cover for you for emergencies or something. And if everybody around you is already doing sleep, then this maybe isn't a good viable. But that's another reason why we want to have options. I'm minding my patients for 2 or 3 or 4 years, and I'm developing a direct-to-consumer strategy with a set of tactics, and I'm talking to local dentists, and now I'm going to start working on physicians. And so I want to have all this bread buttered so that I can make some really nice toast and jam later on out of something, because they're not all going to bear fruit.
There's a lot of food analogies in that last sentence there.
I know. And I'm not hungry at all. I had a nice breakfast and last lunch. We're in the middle of the afternoon. This is the time where we're supposed to be tired. And I don't know about you, but I'm pretty jazzed.
It's that pot we smoked earlier.
That's right. There was something going on there. Yeah, it's not the kind that I had when I was a kid. It's very different. Very different nowadays. It's a whole different world. But I digress. Squirrel.
So you mentioned the kind of the best way to approach dentist. What about other physicians? So think of that same story about the trust and the example I gave for this doctor that's up just north of me a little bit, a few miles. How did I develop that relationship and that trust? Well, I didn't ask them for anything in the beginning.
Fortunately, you're going to treat some patients in your practice, and your patients have physicians. You're going to treat some patients in your practice when you're mining, and some of those patients are CPAP failures, and they see a pulmonologist or a neurologist or an ENT already. They see a sleep doc. Some of those patients are awesome, cracked open door opportunities to get into that office, because now you can say to that doctor, "Doctor, I do dental sleep medicine. I'm a qualified dentist. I'm a diplomat. I'm whatever I am. Your patient so-and-so, love to send them back to you for a new sleep test. They are not wearing their CPAP. I'd love to give them a shot at an oral appliance. What do they care?" They've already done their part. They're usually participating in that folly. They don't care. They think CPAP is the gold standard. That's what everybody should get. And not every sleep doc, but the vast majority are still aligned with CPAP for very good reasons, by the way.
Yeah.
And so you're going to get a chance to treat that patient. Now, here's where the rubber hits the road. I want to have some successes. Okay? So here's where my old dentist thinking needs to get thrown away a little bit. I want to have a success, so I should use, and please take this with a tremendous grain of salt, because I've got a Prosomnus shirt on. I work for Prosomnus. But I think, by and large, in our industry today, most people have talked about Prosomnus as the leader, the innovator. We make better devices. They're not inexpensive in terms of price. They might be actually very cost effective in terms of overall operational cost. They might be the least expensive device out there, in fact. If you look at not having as many interventions or breakage or repair, or because we get excellent results and we have fewer side effects and they're better compliance with the patients, maybe the physicians respond and respect that more. So maybe the earning of trust is a valuable commodity that I'm willing to pay a few dollars more for upfront for the device because it pays me a dividend down the road, or at least doesn't hurt me as a negative dividend down the road. So it's an interesting way of thinking about price versus cost, which is a whole nother story I'd love to tell sometime. So I want to use a good device. I want the patient to be compliant. I want there to be a good experience, no side effects. I don't want the device to gunk up and look like crap in 6 months or a year or 2 years. Because if that happens, these physicians do recall and see these patients regularly. And if you've got shit in their mouth, they're going to shit on your device. And they're not going to send you another patient because they're going to go, that patient doesn't like wearing it. They've got side effects. They're complaining about their jaw being sore, that's hurting, their bite changed, and the device looks like crap. That's not going to be a good experience.
Right.
So I need to earn their trust. How do I earn their trust? Well, I just gave you the formula. Do good stuff with good people for good reasons. If I've done that, once I've got this doctor's name, or maybe I've just gone to visit a doctor, I don't go in and say, hey, can you send me a bunch of patients? Instead, I drop off one business card. This is just my little game. I'm not doing 180 lunch and learns. I'll do maybe, back when I was building this practice, I would do maybe 12 or 15, hoping to get 5 or 6 docs. I'm going to drop off one business card. I'm going to drop off a sheet called a registry. Prosomnus created this really neat kind of profile template sheet that you could fill out, that you put on your last 25 or 30 cases, whatever size you want to put on there. Pre and post AHI, BMI, age, device you used, results. It's a profile of how successful you've been with patients. And you can say to this referring doctor or potential referring doctor, and a couple of your patients or some of your patients are on this list, a number of your patients, even if it's only one is a number, a number of your patients are in this list. But now it's proof positive that A, you do pre and posts, B, you talk to the physicians about the results, C, you didn't ask them for anything, you had one business card just to identify that this is your registry. And then maybe you've got a copy of the AADSM, AASM joint guidelines that talk about it's okay to use oral appliances for mild and moderate. It's probably better to use precision oral appliances because they get better results. In a recent study in the Journal of Clinical Sleep Medicine, precision oral appliances, hear that word precision is code for Prosomnus. Precision oral appliances. Prosomnus.
I
want to use Prosomnus. I don't know why.
This podcast is paid for by Prosomnus.
Everybody's hung up and turned off their computers by now.
And I was joking, this podcast has not been.
No, it is not. No, it is not. I have only had one glass of water is the only thing I've been offered today, not even remuneration. So I'm not a paid participant. This is all because we're friends. So I go in there, and because I'm using these Prosomnus devices in this JCSM article, listen to this number. This is published data in a peer-reviewed journal in medicine. PreSomnus devices were 94.5% efficacious for mild and moderate sleep apnea. And if you throw in the severes, 81%.
Wow.
Now, the mild and moderate number, let's just play with that, 94%. That's on par with CPAP. Let's talk about compliance. PreSomnus is the only device that has, the only commercially available device that has objective compliance data. I'm not saying it's studies in the hundreds and thousands because they're expensive studies to do, but we've done these. Jerry Hu did one for us. Jordan Stern did another one for us. In those registries, we scored well over 90% compliance. No surprise. You'd expect that for all appliance.
I mean,
yeah.
I wear it
Yeah.
and I travel with it, and I don't have to have the stupid wires to put on at night. I just pop it in my mouth, keep it at my bedside. Yeah.
Amen. Too easy to use.
Yeah.
Hit that easy button.
You know what I do when I travel? Just in case my luggage is lost, I always put my PreSomnus in my carry-on bag just in case it's lost.
Get that. So if we take efficacy and 94%, I'm going to call it 90 because my math skills aren't quite as good as yours. But if I took 90% efficacy and multiplied by 90% compliance or adherence, 90% times 90% is 81%. So we could say with relative certainty that the mean disease alleviation or the effectiveness of a precision oral appliance is around 81%. If I took CPAP and gave them 100% efficacy, slightly better than an oral appliance for mild and moderate, and let's give them 50 or 60%, I don't care, compliance, which is probably not that high. Well, let's give them 50 or 60%.
Yeah.
Then 50 or 60% times 100% is 50 or 60% mean disease alleviation or effectiveness. So we could say with certainty, not in a physician's face, but in conversation at the right time, that this actually, doctor, is the most effective treatment for mild and moderate sleep apnea. Don't shove anything about severe up their rump because they're going to be very resistant to that. But when you get to mild and moderate, it lines up with their guidelines.
Don't shove anything severe up the rump.
Yeah, exactly.
That seems like really good advice.
We're taking another one of those twists down an evil hole. Fortunately, these can all
pun intended.
I'm guessing. Man, I wish I could have said pun was intended. And I'm sure you won't edit this out. And so somebody will hear this.
I'm going to leave it.
Murphy is just full of crap. So, but think about this. For mild and moderate, where the AADSM, ASM guidelines align with what they're able to do, you're not in their face. And on severe, you're honoring CPAP in the way it should be honored. And I'm very comfortable. My physicians know I will send patients back for CPAP trial first if they're severe. They have to have some unusual circumstance before that won't happen. So when I go in with that, and then I say, it used to be my daughter and I, now it would be my wife and I if we were going in tomorrow, I'd say, just wanted to drop this off. Don't need any of the doctor's time. Just wanted to give you this and ask you if we could get a stack of cards, a stack of your cards, doctor, because we refer patients for sleep tests and we need offices to send them to. What I said to them is, here's what's in it for you, not here's what's in it for me. I am bragging a little bit in this paperwork here about how successful I've been, but I came here to say, here's what's in it for you. And if there's anything special you'd like us to provide information, patient's insurance information, driver's license, anything that we know about the patient from a health history standpoint from our SOAP notes so that they know you're taking the right kind of records, we'll be happy to provide that. If I walked into 10 offices with that talk track and that conversation, 5 of the physicians will be called by the front desk from whatever they're doing to come meet with us because we are a potential referral source for them. And now they suddenly have time for us.
Interesting.
And we can get in and do a lunch and learn with them.
Yeah.
Because I came in and asked for some of your business cards.
Right.
We typically get a box of 500. Now, truth be told, I have to follow up on that promise. I have to continue to earn their trust. I've already seen 1 or 2 of their patients by chance. Okay? It's going to happen in your local community. I've scored well, done well with those patients. I've come in and I brag. I've asked for some of their cards and I've said, I'll send you patients. Now they're waiting. So send them some patients.
Yeah.
So I take my patient population, which is coming in primarily from dental practices that don't want to do sleep, and then from sleep physicians I work with. But let's not talk about those because those already have a track of where they go. Let's talk about this segment coming in from dentists. And I would say I send about half of them to a third-party sleep testing company. And about half of them I send to my local physicians. How do I choose? That's simple. If I look at the patient and I think the question is, do they or don't they have sleep apnea? And there's no weird sleep symptomology that the patient talks about in their consult. And there's no really weird, complex medical history. And they're not a Medicare patient. they're under 65, I order up their sleep test. And I can do that in Michigan, and I can do that in 45 states. If they have a complex medical history, they're on 15 different drugs, they've had a heart attack and a stroke and all this kind of crap going on, or they've got restless leg and periodic limb movement, and they've got narcolepsy and they've got insomnia and all shit, or they're over 65, I shove them to my local sleep physician and fulfill my promise that I would send you some patients. I didn't say I'd send you the easy patients. You're a specialist, right? The easy ones can go this route. So now I've sent them some patients. And now we come back to Dr. R. 2 years later, he's asking for my cards. That's why in 5 years, my practice will look like this. Now, I've gone back into this particular practice. My wife probably called them today while I'm here in Dallas and said, we've ordered some brochures for your office. We'll send up some business cards. Dr. Murphy and I would love to come up and spend 15 or 20 minutes of a lunch hour and bring you lunch. Don't spend an hour of their lunch hour. They have a lunch hour that's probably 30 or 40 minutes. And if you take up even 30 or 40 minutes of that, they're not going to see that as a favorable thing.
I learned that the hard way. I would offer to go take lunch, and I'd bring in lunch, and I'd sit down ready to have lunch, and everybody would look at me like, what are you doing? Get out of here.
Eat and get the hell out of here.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, talk and get the hell out of here.
No, and so now I don't even eat. Yeah, now I just, I spend 10 minutes talking to Dr. So-and-so.
If there's a sandwich left over, you can take it home with you.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so we go in for a 15-minute lunch and learn, tell them, and we show them our devices, show them other devices. We basically do a tell and show, tell and do, where we say, we use better devices, we get better results. So it fulfills this brag piece of paper. We're telling a story that, and I don't say this, but maybe that there are a lot of dentists who are fooling around in sleep. Not really that many. There's a couple 100,000 dentists in this country. There's maybe 5,000 or 6,000 that are doing sleep, so there's really not that many. But there's a bunch. And that bunch is doing it all kinds of different ways. I'm a diplomate of the American Board of Dental Sleep Medicine. I've been fully trained. I've been tested and vetted. You've seen some of my data. You've had some of my results. We use better devices. That's why we're better. Let's go.
Yeah.
And I don't say it that way in any way, shape, or form, but that's the quiet, I call it humble bragging that occurs. And I get to say things, and you should find whatever it is that's in your voice that you get to say. But I say, and fortunately, you're stuck with one of these dentists who's kind of a nerdball. I say I'm kind of a nerdball dentist. I do a lot of studies and keep a lot of records and keep track of stuff like that. And I work for a company that makes these devices. I actually lead the dental sleep medicine program down at the Detroit Mercy School of Dentistry in Detroit. So you drop whatever little hints are right for you. I've been doing this for so many years. Whatever your story is. I've done a number of devices and cases just like this. Even if it's one, it's a number. So whatever the appropriate pieces are, you bring those in and drop those as well. So there's this humble bragging circle, proof on the paper. You've delivered on what you promised. And now, as this is evolving and you're getting this referral base, got a few of your friend dentists that are sending you to people, and now you start to work with some of these physicians.
You mentioned your brag sheet. I remember you telling me this a while back, I think over breakfast. You were saying that that first year when you're doing the mine your database is that it's a great time to begin to build your brag sheet and get that efficacy
100%.
So that in year two, you talked about the shingles,
Yep.
Shingle one, you got to, mine your patient database. Next is begin some with direct marketing, but then also begin to talk about those, doing those doctor visits. Mm-hmm. But in Shingle one, you've earned, you have the data, you have your brag sheet, you have the efficacy that you can talk about.
And if you've only done 4 or 5 cases and you're bold enough to decide you want to go meet with one of these doctors and get a chance to do this, your brag sheet could be 3 or 4 sleep test results with blanked out information on the top, rather than this registry. The registry sort of says, fill out this sheet. And if you came in with 3 names where there's spaces for 25, it would look kind of silly. So I just keep filling it out. When I get to a new 25, I turn the page and run the data on the new page. And it's interesting because sometimes the data is great. Sometimes the data is good. I wouldn't say it's ever bad, but I've had severe data as low as 50% successful treatment to as high as 70% successful treatment. And then there's also the question you've got to answer with them and have discussions about, and this comes up in those conversations, what's success? Ooh. Is it below 5? It's going to be tougher. So usually we say a 50% reduction and below 10. And I explain to them because going from 11 to 9 is not very exciting, but it's below 10. And going from 80 to 40 is a 50% reduction, but they still have severe sleep apnea. And it's not very exciting.
Yeah.
And they get that. They get that right away. And then I remind them of another salient feature. That although Inspire got a severe indication clearance from the FDA, and the STAR trial had them going below 20. I want you to think about that. Below 20, with 68% efficacy and 75% adherence, we can beat that with oral appliances. Now, think about that. Inspire has a severe clearance for use in treating obstructive sleep apnea, and it's $30,000 or $40,000. And it's only 68% efficacious, 75% adherent, and oh, by the way, in their own STAR trial data, 32% of the patients had side effects that they complained about afterwards. That's nuts.
Yeah, I'll keep.
So physicians are hearing about Inspire, and most of them aren't doing Inspire. Check their website before you go in. If they're doing Inspire, don't crap on Inspire, for God's sake. Don't worry about that. Inspire sucks. Oh, Inspire's a piece of crap. They go, I do a lot of Inspire. Oh, I'm sorry. That would be bad.
Inspire, don't sue us.
That's right. Yeah, no, but that's their data.
I know.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's their data.
Yeah.
And so Prosomnus is, we do a lot of cool innovative things. We actually have an FDA clinical trial that we're doing right now while we're sitting here. It's underway to get a severe indication for EVO. Won't be for all of our devices, but EVO seems to outperform everything else we have. It's got better compliance. It's got better efficacy. We're seeing incredible results with it. So they're going to hold us up to a standard that's a little higher standard than what they had for Inspire, but we're confident that we'll beat this. So
that's exciting.
It is very
really exciting.
Super exciting stuff.
Well, thank you. I think we have shared with our folks getting into this rocky road of dentistry that's got a potential pile of gold on the other end of it, but it's not an easy path. Hopefully we've given them some insight and guidance. So,
Amen.
yeah, thank you very much.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you.